Behind the Lens panel, and so movies and TV are more than just the actors we see on film. There's a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes to make them happen. So today we get an exclusive look on what happens behind the lens. So first off, we have Joshua Allison on the end there. Yeah, he's a costumer for Once Upon a Time. How many of you have seen Once Upon a Time? Yeah, great show. So really excited to have him here. And back for his second year in a row, we've got Terry Lewis. And if you were here last year, or if you've read the program, he's a set decorator for Deadpool 2, but he's also done stuff like Planet of the Apes. And yeah, a bunch of other big stuff, so really happy to have him back. And then we've got William Robson. He's the assistant director for the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So how many of you have seen that? Yeah, oh, such a good show. I'm hooked. I've binged a lot of it. And then lastly we have Yvett Andre. Yeah, and so she's the art director for Riverdale. Who's all seen Riverdale? Yeah, woo! Yes, and she's also a martial artist, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's in the program. So nobody messed with Yvette. So first off, we'll just go down the line. We'll give just a brief sort of synopsis of what you do in your field. And yeah, Josh, why don't you start?
Oh gee, what we do. What day is it? What show am I on? I mean, I could be doing anything from shopping in the mall, which sounds like a great job. I've never been so stressed out at work in my life. Returns are not fun. There's days I could be in the sewing room making anything from underwear for babies, like when we were doing a Serious Unfortunate Event, we had a racket with this big, a little bloomers for Sunny. Then I could be on Arrow doing, putting a pocket in Stephen Amell's jacket because he wants to have his cell phone tucked inside of it. So it could be anything. We could be putting dirt on clothing. It just goes on and on. A lot of my day is chasing background actors, making sure they aren't sticking on their toque because it's cold out. It's a 1950s show where that wouldn't happen. Yeah, so it's a lot of absolutely anything you can think of, from laundry to shopping. Handing coats back and forth to actors is one of the big things that we do, making sure they're warm. If they're from LA and it's July, they're still cold. So we're giving them little hot packs to put on themselves and hot water bottles and keeping everyone as that warm or as cold. A lot of the times if we're on some of the big superhero shows like DC Legends, we have a lot of really strange characters, so keeping them cold with leaf blowers. Yeah, it's an insider tip there, folks. Yeah, so my day consists of absolutely anything from aliens to Victorian ladies.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Terry.
I work in the set decoration department, which is an arm of the art department. If any of you saw me when I was up here last year, I kind of explained it very quickly that there's essentially three people that make a film: the director of photography, and the production designer. And that triumvirate of people are the adults that decide what it is we're going to do and the direction we're going to take and how the film and TV show is going to look. I work underneath the production designer in a department called set decoration. And I won't get into it, but set decoration department has many, many different positions in it: lead dresser, buyer, set dec, assistant set decorator, set dresser. We're responsible for all the things that make up an environment that the actors aren't physically touching. If we were decorating this room, set dec would be responsible for the tablecloth, the microphones. Props would be responsible for the water bottle, for the glasses that I handle. But anything that the actors don't handle, and once again, this could be an alien environment, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, or it could be a lawyer's office. Oh God, another lawyer's office. But it's basically the environment that the scene takes place in. My department's responsible for that.
Awesome. Lynn.
Hi. Oh, that's really loud. Maybe I have to go back a little bit. Yeah. I'm an AD, I'm supposed to yell. so I'm the assistant director, and we have one of the smaller departments. We have a first AD who really is in charge of like the logistics and planning and coordinating of what the plan is going to do, doing a breakdown from the creative side into a practical, this is what our day is going to look like in order to achieve what we can maximize with our resources. And the second AD is there to help kind of build that call sheet for the following day and to coordinate with the departments to make sure that plan is actually going to work with their schedule and time, trying to find things of, the set decoration department, if we're going to change over that set, we need X amount of time. Okay, can we go do something in between and then come back to that set that we need to 2 hours later? And so it's just helping, it's logistics and coordination. I'm a third AD on set, and so I coordinate all the background and the cast, and just help keep, I call myself the intranet of the film set, because I'm just constantly passing information amongst all the different departments. And that allows everybody to kind of know what they have to do and when to execute it, so they can prepare things. Sometimes, the maggots that we're going to put on the food or something like that, they need half an hour to get ready for that performance. So better not pull them out too early. So just little details like that. It's a lot of coordination and walking around about 25 kilometers a day.
Wow.
It's good.
Yeah, get your steps in.
Yep.
Yeah. Yvette?
Hi, like Terry, I work in the art department, in that triangle, or the three-headed dragon as we sometimes refer to it. The production designer who has that overall vision for the scene that we bring to camera, and that camera crew. And so with the production designer, the art director is like the right-hand man or woman of that production designer, who's basically becomes a project manager of that creative department. So I'm charged with bringing 8 different departments to camera. Bring the scene to camera is the main focus of that. And Terry's decorating is one aspect of that, but there's construction and paint and greens and set decorating and props and picture cars and special effects. So if the art department is involved in any aspects of those to bring the scene to camera, then they need to be coordinated and communicated. So, but probably 70% of my job is managing people's personalities. So.
Just
That's awesome. So again, going down the line, what got you into the film industry and the departments that you're in?
Oh, gee. Okay.
It seemed like a very loaded question.
Yeah, really though. As far back as I remember, and I'm talking about being like a 5-year-old kid growing up in Newfoundland, I was knitting sweaters for my dog. Didn't have a lot of friends. It's okay. And then it just became, learn how to do something else. And I remember when we went to a home-based business, this is like how I got interested in the whole thing. It was a home-based business conference kind of like this, and there was a lady that had a booth set up called Kids Can Sew, and my mom was like, here you go. And she sat me there, and I made a beanbag, a little square. Yeah, I don't have any more if you wonder, but and then I just started taking lessons from this lady in her basement, and then I went through high school, helped out with all the shows in the theater department in my high school. Then I did the costuming for film and theater program at Capilano College, and then when I finished that, that's when we had the downfall in the economy, and I actually moved here to Victoria and drove horse carriage for many years. And then I moved back to Vancouver, and I just went, okay, I'm kind of done driving horse carriages, and I was going through jobs on Craigslist, and I saw set dresser, which I thought was dressing people in clothing on set, but it's actually in your department instead, in set deck. Yeah, oops. So I accidentally applied on that. They're like, we're going to hand your resume over to this department. And they called me the next day and hired me to go into do background for them. And it was just accidental, I had 4 days on that show, then I got a call for 9 days on another show. My third ever job was the whole season on Arrow, which was a really big first job. Well, third job, but first real big job. It just kind of exploded from there. Just, yeah, keep going to show after show.
Yeah.
Well, it started off making a beanbag.
Yeah, it all starts with the beanbag, folks. Just drill that into your brain. Terry.
It's weird. I also make beanbags now. I But I came out of Yvett in the mid-'80s, and I worked in museums as an exhibit designer, so I had a little bit of a connection. I wasn't really enjoying museums, and basically I took a year off, and I'd always been interested in film, and a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend's cousin's barber's sister worked in commercials, and I somehow talked my way onto helping out the props master on a commercial, and I did that for about 6 months. I didn't get paid a penny. I just went every day, put in 12, 14 hours a day, learned where not to stand, learned the names of the lights, learned basically as much as I could soak up about the film industry. I took every job that was out there, non-union job, and eventually someone offered me a commercial where they paid me, and eventually that led to an Ernest movie, and that was 29 years ago.
And it's 4.
But basically, yeah, much the same, and I think everybody maybe goes through a similar process where you start out small, and people are always asking me, well, how do you get your foot in the door? And my answer is, the first question is how do you get your foot in the door, and the second question is how do I get in the union? And I always say they're not connected. You have to do the work. You have to go on Craigslist and help out someone making a student film, or a bunch of guys that are doing a slasher film in the woods with an iPhone. You just have to do the work. And once you're in, if you're good at it, you will progress, and you will work your way up the ladder.
William.
I guess to go back to childhood, they filmed Jumanji right by my house. And, I was probably 5 years old at the time. I didn't really know who this Robin Williams character was. Nice. Yeah. There we go. But the film world, it all connects into one crazy big show.
Yeah.
And I just remember going into theaters and watching it and being like, oh, that's Maple Ridge. That's really cool. And just having that kind of breakdown, I remember having that epiphany, so I always had this drive and this admiration for film. And as soon as I had my driver's license, I skipped a lot of school. And I told my teachers that I was going to go down to a film set, and if I saw the signs, I was going to go hang on a film set and squat somewhere close by and watch. And when you're a kid, you can get away with anything. And so I never got in anybody's way, and and I hung out on dozens and dozens of shows, and managed to sometimes sit behind the director's monitors and just watch. And I got to say one time, like, oh, the guy's hand was in the shot there, and he was like, oh, really? They rewinded. Let's go again. Who are you? I'm missing school right now. And I ended up, walking onto Supernatural. I just moved back home after college, and I just was standing there. The PAs were moving a tent, and they were going to do it wrong. And I stopped them, got them to put it down, organized them, made them move it right. And they're like, oh, that was really great. Do you want to be a PA? And at the time, I was like 19. I was like, nah, I'd rather be like on set, not like somewhere out of the parking lot. And I just had a lot of energy. I wasn't ready to kind of work on film, but the lighting guy came over and was like, do you want to work on lighting? I was like, maybe. So I did 4 months on Supernatural, unpaid, probably about 3-4 days a week, whenever I could make it. The first 2 weeks was just literally throwing out cable and cabling, just practicing how to cable and practicing how to set up lights and just staying away from the set. And I was just being quizzed, and you worked me through this whole training program. And then they went to offer me a job, and I was like, I think I'm going to move to Toronto and help start a comedy sketch show, which failed. And then it took me about another 6-7 years before I ended up back in film. I went and worked in politics. So you actually rode your horse around the legislature where I worked for probably at the same time.
I've been around there before, yeah.
And when I moved back home from Dubai, I was needing a job, and I walked into the Maple Ridge Film Studio that popped up in an old bingo complex, and I said, hey, is there any work? No, there isn't any work. Okay, came back next week, any work? No, there isn't any work. Came back next week, any work? Actually, we need help hanging a lighting grid. Can you do that? I was like, sure. What's a lighting grid? And then the next day they put me in charge of hanging the rest of the poles to hang the lights, and the production manager walked up to me and said, "Who are you?" And I told her I want to work for her, so she made me a PA. And I was happy to do it that time, a little bit wiser. And just realizing how the unions work, as soon as I got that job, I started working towards my days to get my associate membership and kind of build up my resume and experience. And now it's really hard to not have work. So it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cable wrapping is a really good employable skill, so if you can learn to do that properly, over under. Yvette?
That was great.
Yeah.
I actually, I tend to say, who you know gets you in the door, what you know keeps you there. But I do like, what all of you were saying. I was very lucky. I got into the film industry very late, only about 7 or 8 years ago. I had a 25-year career as a museum exhibit designer. Before that, before being a designer, I was a scenic artist. So I was doing a lot of film skills in the museum world, and those skills dovetailed beautifully with the film industry once I made that connection. And it was something I was always passionate about. Growing up, I always wanted to be in the film industry. Didn't know how. My brother was a stuntman and a stunt coordinator for many years in Vancouver, still is. And so I was always intrigued by that, and I came from a family of artists. So at one point I was taking a sabbatical from museum exhibit design, and Grace Point came to town, and the production designer was looking for set designers. And I was a designer, and I had drafting skills and that ability, and they hired me, and that was the beginning. Hopefully not the beginning of the end, but that was the beginning. And it really just lit a fire under me. I was so excited to work with this dysfunctional family and of people who are in film, because I kind of call it the land of misfit toys. Like, everybody has some amazing contribution to bring to that. And the wheel does not turn with every single person doing their part, including the PAs, which are amazing troopers. So I had a very fast trajectory to the art director position because of my past experience and my ability as a manager as well. So my martial arts comes in where I actually learn to de-escalate confrontation on set. So that works, we don't have to fight. But yeah. So, thanks.
Yeah. So, okay, going down the line again, what was one of your favorite projects that you worked on?
My favorite projects? I would say Series of Unfortunate Events was probably the best show I worked on. It was crazy because most other shows, a lot of the clothing is purchased. So they come up with ideas, and then it goes through a fitting process, and then it goes to the breakdown department. But we actually made every single piece of clothing for that show, every background person, everybody. So it was massive. It was we had these designs come through, and you walk into the main office, and they'd have probably 6 different things of what Neil Patrick Harris is going to wear in this episode, but they're only using one of them. So it's, do you want it in purple? Do you want it in pink? And we had to make one of all of them for the designer and the director, and of course Neil Patrick Harris as well, to actually look at to see which one he wanted. So it was just the volume of clothing that we had. I was a stitcher on that show, so I actually sat at a sewing machine all day long. And just the volume of clothes, and then the process of it going from, oh, I made this pristine thing, and now it's been stretched and stained and looks better than when I made it. And so it's just a really amazing process of buying plain fabric, it gets dyed, you cut it, you stitch it, and then they dye it some more, they paint it, and then you see it on an actor, and you're like, that's amazing. It's pretty cool that this is how we did it. And just, we would have some episodes, we have 400 background, all wearing pinstripes. We all ended up one day wearing pinstripes to the sewing room by accident. Yeah, so that was a really amazing show, and I was there from April until November or so. And yeah, it was a really cool project.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Terry?
Well, this is the thing that keeps me coming back to film for 29 years is most interesting thing I worked on is the last thing I did.
That's very true.
Apple is getting into feature television, and they have a series that they did with Jason Momoa called C.
It just lived there.
Yeah, it filmed, quite a bit of it filmed on the island here, actually, up at the old LNG mill up in Campbell River. And, you know, I didn't really know Jason Momoa from Adam. I didn't really know who he was. And they always give you that little pitch on the phone or when they're texting you to see if you're available. And I was like, what's it about? And they said, well, 600 years in the future, everybody on Earth is blind. And I was like, wow, like how is that going to work? Like if you stop and think about it for a moment, what is the set dressing going to be in that environment if you can only touch and you have to navigate a world where everyone is blind and you have battles and wars, and I mean it was astonishing. So we built everything. There wasn't anything purchased. Anything that I was the buyer on it, anything that I bought was to go into something else, to change it and alter it. There was no ornamentation on anything. Why would you? You're blind. And we brought in a guy who specialized in this, and he did these classes that we'd all have to attend where we understand a blind person's, you know, spatial area of touch.
We had to do that even in the costume department.
Yeah. I mean, it was a remarkable undertaking, and thank God it was undertaken by a company that has the kind of coin that Apple has, because it was not cheap. So it isn't out yet, but I have high hopes for it. But it was fascinating to work on, and like I said, you know, that's the last thing I did. Prior to that, I did a show years ago called Snow Falling on Cedars that I absolutely loved working on. And in between that, you know, there's moments on everything, Planet of the Apes or any show, and it can be large or small. It doesn't have to be a big feature. One of my favorite shows was the Joan and Melissa Rivers story. But I mean, it was well done. You know, the process is always the same, and the result is quite often very different.
Oh, awesome, thank you. William?
So for me, one of my, I guess, the show that I did 2 seasons on, it was Project MC Squared, and that was the first show that I did. It was in Maple Ridge, and that was, my showrunner was, he created the Doogie Howser show. So it kind of ties nicely into Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
And I remember calling the production office and being like, hey, can I get a message to Neil Patrick Harris? Don't think he ever got it. I've got his old boss that's up here filming right now, and he'd just like to connect.
Wow.
And just let him know he's here. Just let him know Nat's here. And so it's just, you know, that show and the way that our showrunner kind of created, it was just a nice little family push cart. So innocent. We're running out the studio, running across the road to go get shots with, you know, these teenage girls helping to save the world. It was adorable. And we'd get these little girls running up to us. They'd be 10 years old, and they would know all of our cast by names, and it was just like, this is amazing. This is magical. Just the way it warms and lifts people up. And then right now it's on Sabrina, and again, it's you know, I really like being part of a show where we treat each other like humans first, and then we kind of look at our positions and how can we support each other, how can we work towards our goal, because we are doing, you know, 12 to 18 hours together in our day, and so as the day goes on, we are getting tired, but we have to keep each other in good spirits, and when you have that type of team come together, then it kind of stops feeling like work. But you're still there participating, still engaged, still, even if it's a bit of a slow day, as an assistant director, my job is to try to, like, okay, stay focused. What are we doing? I know it's kind of slow. What's next? Who can I talk to? What's the problem solving? Kind of staying in that engaged moment. And Sabrina's just, it's a lot of fun. We do some weird stuff on that show.
Yeah. It's funny, right before we started, William said you can accomplish anything in 15 minutes, and that was just...
Oh yeah, we've shot a whole
So
scene in a new set in 15 minutes and did 3 takes.
Wow. That's crazy.
favorite, but that's just because of my, I love those opportunities that help me challenge myself and expand. So every single show I am learning on, and that is my goal, to take in more information, to be working with new people, to see that creativity and the kind of results that we can have from it is remarkable. But I do have a couple of shows that stand out for me. One actually was a very small, little low-budget Hallmark show. Terry kindly hired me for it as a buyer and a decorator. This is a few years ago, and as a dresser. And I had so much fun. We just had, I don't know, like 10 weddings in like three days. It was just stupidity.
It's called Bridal Wave.
Bridal Wave, yes. I had so much fun because Terry gave me a lot of rein to decorate to dress some of the florals and all of those things. And it was really great. I didn't bear the stress that he was bearing for the rest of us, and so I got to enjoy what I was doing. So that does stand out for me in my, little fast trajectory and career. But the other one is I worked on Descendants 2, and to be doing shows with a lot of green screen work and pirate ships that we got to build the coolest sets. And they were so fun, but it was also a musical. So we had to build a lot of stage areas for the dancers to do all their rehearsing. And to see the collaboration of having those choreographers come in from LA, the dancers were mind-boggling, and just, hundreds of them. And then to interact with the sets that we were designing and building and the stunt work that was involved, it was very complex, but it was really an amazing show to be part of. So.
So we're going to open the floor up for some Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for any of them? Yes?
Hi. Fascinating listening to you, but I'm curious as to, you work on a production and then you go and see the movie. When you're seeing a movie, are you critiquing it as to what it was, or are you able to just get lost in the story?
I'm generally shrieking, show the couch, show the damn couch!
I spent 3 days on the nightgown and we didn't see it. Yeah, so a little bit of both. I watch everything. First of all, I don't notice the costumes sometimes. I just notice, we filmed that at a little park in Burnaby, but they've completely somehow changed the back of it into being Washington, D.C., and you forget. I don't remember, because we worked there, so it's but then actually looking at the costumes of things, there's this sheer volume of things we go through, and you can't remember all the pieces that you touch, then you look at it and you go, that wasn't orange, it was blue. And they've changed the color of it in post-production on something. But no, we definitely do critique things. They used that take. I didn't think they were going to use a take. We had the fur on a little bit differently. So yeah, it's very different seeing it after. Sometimes I don't watch them, but I usually try to at least fast forward and watch them on mute. And just I did that.
They often, in the editing process, too, take a great deal out of a film. There's
Yes.
a huge amount of stuff that you don't see that you may have worked very, very hard on. I worked for like 6 weeks on sets. I did a set on Planet of the Apes, and the apes run through a series of offices, and it just went, and it was over. I mean, literally, it was like 6 weeks of my life, and this was about 4 seconds of film. So when you're in a theater, you're just kind of like, just agog. Oh my God, I can't believe how quickly that went by. Other times they linger on stuff that you just, why are they showing that? So yeah, you do end up critiquing it, but we all enjoy film, and we still enjoy the end product.
My wife, Yasmin here. She's always just going, can you stop rewinding? Can we just no, but I'm hiding behind you right there. That's me too. As an assistant director, I often, if an actor walks in halfway into a scene, well, there's probably somebody behind that wall who's listening to the scene on a comm tech that's going, and now.
Then I take their coat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all it
That's
takes.
literally
People
it.
move the umbrella and just try to stay out of the shot. And, you know, one of our other assistant directors, she's hiding behind a set piece, and I'm going on the radio, Sheila, I can see your shadow. And it's just, I mean, that's definitely a fun part. And yeah, you do. I do notice on shows when there's like a background cross that's done incorrectly, and I'll pause and rewind and go, ah, look at that, they broke the reality there. The person disappeared.
Or they're there, and then they're back there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just cycling the background, and so it's there. But I mean that's part of my fun. Like it's our job to cheat. It's our job to be able to stretch this and create this fake reality. And you know, the camera goes up just a little bit, and you lose that reality. So we just know kind of what's around that world, and you kind of have to just accept it. And yeah, you are breaking the magic a little bit, but I love the magic tricks.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely criticize and look for the scenes that, well, just when I'm watching a show that I've been a part of. And I think it's really important to understand there's kind of two worlds. There is the world that creates the scene and brings the scene to camera, and then the camera world takes over and has the actors and everything happening on that. And so for the most part, the art department at that point, when they've handed the scene over, they back away, other than the odd, you know, person who's in on set. And so our work is done, phew, we're running and we're preparing the next scene or the next set in our lineup. But I'll look at those, and I'm looking at continuity. I'm looking at things like, you know, what if we have an exterior location, it's raining, and then it's cut, and it's not raining, or there's a candle burning, and things like that. And when, you know, where is it? Is it up here? Is it down here in that shot? Glasses. I'm looking at those types of things because there are also details that I need to be watching in my world, where we're organized and we have multiples of things, so that when we bring it to start shooting your however many takes, they've got what they need and everything's ready. And so I'm definitely looking for continuity and the sets, like Terry said. He's like, what? They didn't even show that. We just spent so much time on that. And sometimes it's really heartbreaking. Like when you go, 60% of our show is on the cutting room floor. Like, how do you even piece a show together with the other 40%?
I want to see the whole cut.
Exactly. So, yeah.
The reality is, when you go to a movie, you're paying to see Tom Cruise or whoever. You're not paying to see the furniture. So the camera is going to do this, right? So it doesn't matter the couch he's sitting on or whatever. The camera wants to, you know, encapsulate the star. That's either thing.
I think in most cases, if you notice, either of our jobs, we either did it really well or really poorly.
Yeah, that's our rule. That's one of our rule of thumbs. Like, if you're noticing the background, what's going on, you're not paying attention to what we're supposed to be doing. So it takes a little bit of the pressure off, but at the end of the day, try to be conscious about all those little things. Because at the end of we have a team of people. They're all going to be moving stuff around. It's kind of like, what can we play with? What can move? What can't move? What wall can fly away? And so our team comes in there, we start asking questions, and we have our people that are representing these departments kind of telling us how we can navigate. Oh no, if you want to move that thing, it's going to take us another 30 minutes to reset it. Okay, don't move it.
Exactly. So we do whatever we can and design into those sets the flexibility that they need. It might be if they're opening kitchen cupboards, there's actually a camera port there, so you
More
can see the person
practicals.
on the
More
other side.
practicals.
More practicals, got it. Copy that. Always.
Awesome. Any other questions? Is there one in the back? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's probably well known that various movies or shows set in the past, they have anachronisms in them, but or just generalizing that to mistakes. But what are some of the most fun mistakes that work their way onto the screen for things that you make?
I've never made a mistake. What about you, Terry?
Gosh, you know, I have done some period period films. Snow Falling on Cedars was a prime example of that. It was set around the time of the Japanese internment. It was based on a book about that. In that movie, there's a parade, and there's a gentleman leaning out a window, and the camera pans past him, and he's wearing a watch that's very incorrect for the time. I mean, you can focus in on stuff like that, you know, but these are small details. There's a whole lot of people, as I mentioned with C, there's a whole lot of people that we bring in to get this correct. I also decorated Alpha, which was set 22,000 years ago. And you would not believe the research. That was originally called Solutrean. I mean, we had the world's foremost napper, you know, for making obsidian blades. We flew him in from England and taught the actors how to make arrowheads. Unfortunately, they made them right outside my office, and it just about drove me nuts. But my point is, a lot of time and effort and money is spent to make sure that those mistakes, whether they have to do with the time period or the science behind it, you know, some things are just like an asteroid hurtling towards Earth, and you go, well, it's a movie. I just have to suspend belief. Other times, they want to be accurate about the history and the science, and my point is, they do spend the time and money generally to get that right.
But it's not always a mistake is the other thing. A lot of the time the director goes, I know this isn't correct for the time period, but I like it.
Yeah.
And they just go with it. So even though it looks like a mistake, it could be, I know one of the big things was in Titanic. We had the gas lanterns, but it should have been candles or something like that, but it was completely wrong for the time period, but they went with that on purpose.
Yeah, lighting's often an issue. You know, you can't, it's hard to light a movie. I mean, this thing I just did called C, they're all blind, so why would you have a light? Okay, so that's going to be a very boring show if it's just a dark room with a bunch of people bumping into each other. So you have to figure out how do we make light sources.
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of, I guess, accidents on set, or things that can kind of cause delay to the environment. And like I was doing a movie called Little Fish with Olivia Cook and Jack O'Connell, and there was a fire that started across the street from us in a laundry, washing sheets for hotels and whatnot. And our crew, one of the crew members, luckily spotted it, called the department really quickly, and they responded. But this thing was just taken off, so we suspended filming for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, until it was deemed safe for us to basically return. And safety is extremely important for our shows. And so as an AD, I'll just mention that right now, because that's kind of one of our things that we're constantly doing, department heads as well. So we suspended filming, and we're not doing anything, and I kind of just walked over to the director, and I was like, hey, so we're filming a movie where the world's kind of falling apart right now. Do you think maybe we just get a camera and shoot something on the sidewalk? Anyway, I gotta go back to the office and print some stuff and do some work while we're not filming. And so I did that, and I came back and they shot the actors walking down the street and took the thing. We just took it as an opportunity. How can we adapt to this situation and seize it? And other times, you know, might just get lucky with wildlife appearing in the shot. And like, that actually looked really nice. It's as if we had animals on set today, but we didn't. Yeah, and then, I mean, other mistakes, just, you know, we've had, in a Hallmark bride, so the bridesmaids all showed up in the wrong dresses. We dressed them for notes. Well, we didn't read their notes. We had like 5 weddings, and so they just took the wrong color for the day. And all the bridesmaids go and stand in front of, they're wearing teal, and they're standing in front of pink. And it was kind of like, something's off here. What is it? And then somebody finally goes, are those the right dresses? We're about to film in 15 minutes here. Let's get them switched. And you run into these chaos moments, and that's why there's all these checks and balances with everybody, and having representatives on set for set deck or props and costumes, so that they can we're verifying before they leave trailer and when they get to set, and then there's continuity, scripty who's there to check things off as well. So everybody's trying to stop those mistakes from happening, but we're tired. Some people are new at their job. And human, yeah.
In my world, if there's a mistake on set, I probably don't have a job after that. So, but I have, on one of the Disney shows I was working on, there was a stunt where we only had one of these cars for the actor. And the stunt went a little too hot and heavy, and they crashed the car, which was, we were supposed to make it look like it was crashing, but that meant we could only do one take, and we needed to do another take. And so there was a lot of scurrying and trying to figure this out, bang out the dent, make it work so that we could do this scene again. And of course, you know, you want to see the collision on camera, so we had to use components of what was shot there. But those kinds of accidents, like you said, we're human, and you know, the director's like, no, I want you to go faster when you're off the line there, let's go in there hot and heavy. And stunts are doing what they can, but there's all kinds of factors, and so that collision occurred, and yes, it made it to camera. So
we just had a funny one, and we have this old truck with a stick shift that's crazy. Get it to set, and sure enough, just as we're about to film, it doesn't start. We can't even switch it into neutral, but eventually somebody got under the truck, switched to neutral, and now we're getting ready to roll the camera. We just get 10, 15 crew members behind the truck and start pushing it into the truck. And so we've got different ones where they're behind the truck and they're like, yeah, we'll just wipe them out in post. Or we've got ones where they're just on one side of the truck, all pushing, so maybe you're just seeing the little feet. Very Fred Flintstone.
That happens on Project Blue Book with all the old military vehicles.
Yeah. But you find a way to get something.
Well, that's about all the time that we have. So let's give these guys a big round of applause. If you do have any other questions for them that you've suddenly just thought of, you are able to have a little chat with them outside the theater.
And Josh, aren't you bringing some costumes and stuff up there?
Why, yes, I am. At 3:45, I will be outside in the Crafters Corner with my friend Ray Clark over here, an amazing breakdown artist. So we put together two outfits. It's a pirate and kind of a Indiana Jones thing. Half of us we went to Valley Village, spent as little as we could. On half of the outfit, it hasn't been touched, and the other half we've done the pirate lady in what you could do with breakdown to make it look more realistic yourself at home. And then the Indiana Jones is using more professional techniques. So come on by around 3:45 and take a look at some blood wounds and dirt and hems and all that good stuff.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Please stick around for the day if you can. We've got some great panels coming up. The cosplay contest has a live band backing them, which is going to be crazy. So if you're able to stick around for that,